Yeah, absolutely. So, from the cryptoverse, let's say that the biggest news I think that came up this week was the launch of a new mobile project that's coming out. So, Digidaigaku is
Mhm.
the title for it, which is a bit of a mouthful. I'm going to be honest,
Love
but
that pronunciation. You nailed it.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you
yeah,
killed it.
I practiced a little bit in advance of this. So, yeah, so this is an interesting project to me for a few reasons. For those that haven't been following it, maybe we can pull up one of the one of the articles, and we'll put some info in the description below where you can check it out. So essentially, the founder is the creator of God of War. So anyone that has followed gaming for the past couple decades certainly should be aware of that. And the big news is they had a $200 million raise, and Gabe and his team are now building a mobile waifu based game called Digidaigaku. And so there's a couple interesting elements here. Because the project's so early, we still don't have the full structure in place. But the main point that I thought was interesting for us to talk about today is how they're branding it. So we've all heard, and even on our cast here, talked about play to earn, play and earn, play to own, play and own mechanics. And the way that Gabe and his team are branding this project is a free to own game. And so essentially the marketing concept is they're taking free to play, and it's that but with NFTs on the back end. So I want to talk about what does that actually mean. Is that going to be something that's sustainable for us as an industry? Because I think that there's some questions that I have, let's say,
Yeah,
and looking forward to getting some of those answered in the coming weeks with some more AMAs from that project and others. So
yeah.
TSG, what just initial thoughts from what you've seen from this project launching?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie and pretend like I'm an expert on the project. Like I honestly didn't know about it. But I'll speak on the whole concept of like the whole. You said free to own, right?
Free to own, yeah.
Yeah. So like honestly, I think the concept is cool. Uh, but I see a major flaw, which is actually easily remedied. In my opinion, so free to own actually aligns with my thought process of new projects, new games following the free to play uh, structure, just because I believe that that's the way to go, right? I think that's the way to onboard people, kind of make it as accessible to people as possible. That's how you're going to get people into a new IP. So I think the free to own is really, really smart. The problem is, how do they generate revenue then? The revenue then comes from secondary sales. Again, that's not a problem. That's completely fine. But then it becomes like if everything is bought on the secondary, it stops being free to own because you're actually just paying for it at that stage. And second, if they continue actually doing free to own, the way that I think they can make it sustainable is if they limit it and do what Illuvium is doing, where they create sets. So what I mean by that is like they have a set one that's free to own, and you can have it like, for example, Illuvitas. I think that's a really, really good idea. So you have this unlimited Illuvitas for the first, or Digidaikus, unlimited Digidaikus for the first 3 months, and you can just keep minting as many of them as you want and do whatever you have to do there. And then for the next 3 months, those original Digidaikus are no longer available. But you have a new set that's for the next 3 months. It doesn't have to be 3 months. That's just I'm pulling that number out of the air. It could be 6 months. It could be a year. Whatever it is.
Right.
Essentially, but you still wouldn't want it a year. Maybe I think 6 months is all right because it gives you enough time to kind of create a new set, and it kind of keeps it limited enough where if you have unlimited mints for a year, like it's not going to be scarce at all unless you're waiting like 10 years down the road. But that's the only kind of way that I see it working out. If they create limited sets for 6 months and make it unlimited where anyone can kind of just mint as many as they want. And then if the IP really blows up, but then that's really relying on the IP, right? If the IP goes to shit, it doesn't matter how scarce it is. It's a conversation I had with Santiago on our podcast, on the Ogma podcast. In crypto, we have this concept that scarcity means something. Like scarcity without demand means fuck all. Like I'm just gonna say it as it is. Like it just means fuck all. Like without demand for something, it's like, oh man, I have a one of one piece of shit that's covered. Like it just doesn't mean anything. So you kind of need to have something with demand. And for something like this, the demand is going to come from the demand of IP. So what they do with the IP is going to be very important. I think it's easy to fix, like I say, to remedy the scarcity and the sustainability issue. That's an easy remedy. But to remedy the demand issue, that's the thing where it's going to be interesting to see if it's doable or not, because it's so easy to make an IP and fail. Like we've mentioned it in this podcast, everyone's kind of said it. Most startups fail. So again, interesting idea. I think the concept is good. Like I've said before, to me already from what I've heard, is the proof of idea is interesting, the free to own. It's now kind of just seeing which project executes it properly. But I think that the idea is really, really good. And it's something that we can start and build around.